So this video tells us how to get vending locations for the vending machines, right?
To really maximize your business's potential, you're going to have to analyze locations with respect to the type of machines that you have. Some types of machines will do better in certain locations than others. For example, an honor box may work great in a small office setting, but it's a big mistake in a location that's open to the public. In this segment, we're going to take a closer look at the locations that you may want to consider for different types of machines. Then we'll take a look at how you can evaluate locations within locations. Now, let's start with bulk machines. Generally speaking, bulk machines hold food items that are not individually packaged or sold. They're usually single head gumball machines or double head gumball machines or triple heads. This also includes the novelty machines that will make the gumball play baseball or send it through an obstacle course. Generally speaking, regardless of type, bulk machines usually have a big advantage over other types of machines. They take up very little floor space. In addition, with a good charity affiliation, they're not that difficult to locate. Since they're small, they can be placed in just about any location. Still, customers aren't very likely to go far out of their way to find bulk machines. For that reason, it's important to place a machine in an area that gets a lot of foot traffic. Waiting rooms are very good, but so are entryways and break rooms. You can place a bulk machine next to a snack machine, like a Coke machine. Think about it this way. Somebody goes to the break room to get a Coke. Coke's, 60, 65 cents. They put a buck in the machine. What do they have? They have change. But be sure to place the machine where it's not going to get bumped around a lot. You don't want to get sued if your machine falls over and breaks somebody's toe. Since most of the items sold in bulk machines could present a choking hazard for small kids, just be a little bit cautious when placing a machine in a location where small kids could be roaming around freely. Make sure to put the machine in a place that's easily seen by adults. Just make sure the machine is easy to see. Don't put it behind a plant. Keep them clean, keep the product fresh, and constantly monitor whether your location is in the best possible spot in that business. Now, anyone who's actually talked to me in person will know that I preach about business break rooms every day. I'm a big fan of business break rooms. Everybody that's getting into vending thinks that they're going to get into the local Walmart or the Target or the local food store. Chances are pretty good that's not going to happen. What you need to focus on if you're getting into bulk machines is business break rooms. Every day I hear from somebody saying, well, I'm in a small town and all the good locations are taken. Chances are you haven't taken a really, really close look at the business break room situation in your town. For example, let me throw a couple examples at you. Think about this. In every town, there's a RE/MAX office. There's a Coldwell Banker office that has maybe 40, 50 agents. Okay? Now think about this. They have a break room. In their break room is probably a Coke machine. Next to that Coke machine is about a 4 foot by 4 foot space where your triple head gumball machine would fit nicely. Now what's going to happen is this. In that break room, you're going to have people in and out of that break room all day long. Some of those people are going to like gumballs. Some of those people are going to like peanut M&Ms. Some of those people are going to be hooked on hot tamales. You only need 3 or 4 people in that office that could have 60 employees to be hitting that machine 2 or 3 times a day. And it happens. If it does, you could very easily have a location that's doing $50, $60, $70 a month. It all depends on how often the people that are hooked on those products hit the machine regularly. I had a finance company on Independence Boulevard in Charlotte, North Carolina. This finance company had a triple head gumball machine. Now, in that triple head gumball machine, we had M&M peanuts, gumballs, and hot tamales, I believe. Now, when the people that worked at the finance company were on breaks or when they just didn't want to be closing loans, they would play poker with the M&M peanuts. You put a quarter in, you would get roughly 7. And I guess the blues were kings and the greens were queens, or I don't know how they broke it out, but they would play poker. Now, that machine did about $125 a month. It was a finance company with about 8 employees. That sort of situation happens all the time. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but a lot of times, if you keep your eye out for good business locations, you'll be surprised at what you find. Snack, drink, and hot food machines. Let's talk about big machines. These machines can provide all the basic food groups and then some. Most of the time when we talk about snack machines, we're talking about snacks like chips and candy bars and Cokes. In a good location, these machines will make more money than bulk machines, at least in the gross amount, but you're going to have to service them a lot more often. It's not uncommon for some of these machines to do $100, $200 a week. Now, these are gross numbers, but it's fairly significant. They're also big and heavy, so you're going to have to choose your location fairly carefully and make arrangements for whenever you need to move them around. Now, people will go looking for these machines, unlike bulk machines, so the specific location is probably a little less important. Still, you want to use common sense. Make sure the machines are placed in clean, safe areas so customers aren't going to be afraid to use them, and you won't be afraid to service them. When you place these larger machines, keep in mind that you're going to have to wheel or carry snacks or Cokes or drinks to that location every time you service the machines. So you're going to want to avoid inaccessible areas like stair landings.
It sounds like it's just a recording.
Now, if you make the machines accessible to people in wheelchairs, this problem will take care of itself. Snack and drink machines are great for workplaces where employees and patrons don't tend to leave very often once they're there, like college campuses or hospitals or workplaces that only give a half-hour lunch. There's a bunch of those out there. Now let's talk about honor boxes. Honor boxes are simple boxes where the customer takes the snack and he or she will hopefully place the money in the cash box that's provided. Now they're pretty low tech, which makes them easy to manage, and they're not going to have any mechanical problems, but they're pretty risky because they depend on the goodwill of people who just happen to be around. I'm not a big fan of honor boxes. I know that there are some people that have done well with them, but if you're just getting started, I would steer clear of them initially. Maybe down the road as your business grows, you can incorporate some of these and maybe able to make some money with them. But honor boxes are best suited to private company break rooms or areas where employees can watch closely. In my opinion, I'd rather have a machine there than an honor box, but that's just me. Now let's talk about novelty machines and other machines. Recently, we've been seeing a huge run on sticker machines. I like sticker machines. You can sell all kinds of items, including stickers and fake tattoos and toys and toothpaste and from vending machines. Where to place these machines will largely depend on the particular product and the customer you're targeting. For example, a machine that sells fake tattoos may do well in a pizza place where you're going to get both kids and adults, but a machine like that can't be used in a workplace. Okay, now you have to use common sense. There's going to be limitations on what you can do in a particular location.
Second strategy will be to determine the geographic area you need to cover to reach your goal. Here is some more insight from Ronnie Talent's course. He said, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. I know someone who is starting a vending business in Charlotte. They want to keep their locations within a 10-mile radius of South Charlotte, the nicer side of town. I'm a big fan of the nicer side of town.
Allow me to expand on this concept by reading Ronnie's 12 Principles of Networking. Recently, I attended an after-hours business gathering. Hors d'oeuvres and cocktails were served.
Blonde's neighbor's house was on fire, so she called 911. The blonde told the operator, "My neighbor's house is on fire." The operator asked, "Where are you?" The blonde answered, "At my house." The operator replied, "No, I'm asking, how do we get there?" The blonde said, "In a fire truck, duh."
Well, this sounds like good information and all, but right now is vending a really good industry to get into? I'm really going back and forth between vending and something online, maybe.
A friend wanted to introduce me to an acquaintance of his. From a distance of several feet, she was an attractive, well-dressed woman, very professional in demeanor and appearance. We approached her and my friend made his introductions. She reached out to shake hands and smiled. Caught in her teeth was a piece of lettuce from the hors d'oeuvres she had been eating. She, of course, did not know it. Intellectually, I knew it wasn't very important. Still, it shattered her image and formed an indelible first impression. First impressions are crucial to the networking process. They occur every time strangers meet. Within the first few seconds, each passes judgment on the other. Once this first impression has been made, studies show that it is nearly impossible to reverse or reverse completely. Not a single word need be spoken. Strangers will make judgments based on your appearance alone. They will take you in, even at a glance, from head to toe. Without even realizing they are doing it, they will appraise your demeanor, mannerisms, body language, and grooming. They will look at your suitcase, briefcase, or handbag. Within 3 seconds, they will form an opinion or judgment about you that is nearly impossible to change. 1. Success in 3 seconds. This is our first principle of networking. You have 3 seconds to make a great first impression. This is your opportunity, maybe your only opportunity, to show your stuff. How do you do it? Just practice those skills your mother tried to teach you. When you meet someone new, make eye contact, smile, stand up straight, relax, and greet the person courteously. Develop a good handshake. Notice the color of the other person's eyes as you introduce yourself. Listen carefully to his or her name. If you do not catch the name clearly, ask the person to repeat it. 2. Make sure they remember you for the right reasons. The second principle is that the impression you leave has got to be a good one, and it's got to be lasting. How many times have you gone to a business event or even a networking event and exchanged business cards with several people? You probably put the cards you've collected in your pocket or wallet. But later at home or the office, you took the cards out and looked them over. You remembered very little or perhaps nothing at all about the person who gave you the card. Chances are, you promptly threw the cards away. You probably gave prospective contacts your business cards. What do you suppose happened to them? They probably met the same fate, and later, when you attempt a follow-up phone call, you'll find you cannot get past your contact's voicemail or secretary. So networking is about meeting new people, but just as importantly, it is about having those new people remember you in a positive way. And that depends on your personality, your physical appearance, grooming, lifestyle, goals, and communication skills. Salespeople are taught to meet the prospect. This simply means they match themselves with the person to whom they are speaking. The same idea holds true for you. For example, if you are talking with someone who is low-key and soft-spoken, you should give that person sufficient personal space for comfort and speak a little more slowly and softly. On the other hand, if the person you are speaking with is a high-energy, hyperactive type person, you may need to stand a little closer and speak more quickly. You won't always make a good impression or even a lasting impression. If you cannot make a standout positive first impression, at least do not make a negative one. Ask the right questions. This is our third principle of effective networking. It is also an excellent way to be remembered positively. A first contact conversation will go one of 2 ways. The majority of the time will be spent talking about A, you, or B, the other person. Most people are far more comfortable talking about themselves, especially if they feel the other person is genuinely interested in what they have to say. You will be remembered far better if your initial conversation focuses on the other person. This means asking questions and listening to the answers. It means asking soft questions. A soft question is an open-ended question that asks for general information. This conversation should not become an interrogation. Your question should make the other person feel good about him, you, and the conversation. Asking soft questions is pretty easy. All you need to do is say hi, ask what the person does for a living, follow up with interesting questions, and listen to the answers. Here's some examples of soft questions. These questions need to be modified for the particular situation. You should also practice asking them so you can project them naturally and sincerely. You don't want to sound like an attorney grilling a witness in a courtroom. or like you're afraid of the answer. First, what do you like best about what you do? This question is a guaranteed winner. It is not often asked. It focuses on what the person likes best. Often it will reach his or her passion about the business and give you tons of clues to use in follow-up conversations. Second, what got you started in this business, field, project? This question can be very useful in giving you background information about the person. It can also provide a number of facts or clues to be used in subsequent conversations. Third, how can I help you find prospects for your business? This question is really important. Offer your help in securing new business contacts or opportunities. At this stage, you have asked for nothing. You have made an offer of help. The individual will feel some obligation or responsibility to help you when you do ask for assistance. You are gaining the other person's confidence and trust. Networking is a two-way street. You will be asking for referrals and contacts that may help you place your vending machines. If you pass along some referrals to your new business acquaintance, he or she will be likely to reciprocate with additional referrals for you. If you can actually refer some new business his or her way, you have made a friend for life. 4. Make networking a routine part of each day. Whoa, you say, how do I squeeze this in? You bought the 25 vending machines in our example to supplement your day job. You are working a full-time job and then servicing these machines on the side. Your days are filled, and I am asking you to do networking too? As I've already pointed out, you always need to look for new and better locations for your current machines, or for new machines. Networking is the most efficient means of finding new locations. You must learn to regard it as an essential part of your business. You meet someone new almost every day. This person might be a new member at your health club, the Kiwanis Club, or someone you sit beside at your son's Little League baseball game. Or you may enter into a chance conversation with someone in the checkout lane at the supermarket, or strike up a conversation with someone at the barbershop. Unless you live in a cave, the chances are that you meet someone new every day. You make these acquaintances without disrupting your schedule. So if you're meeting new people anyway, why not make it a point to make them new business contacts? By continually expanding your community of business contacts, you are ensuring a ready supply of prospective new locations for your machines. By not doing so, you will severely limit the number of locations and quite likely limit your income. And that's when sales gets really time-consuming, because you're going to have to find contacts without having a little black book of possibilities. Cold calling? Here you come. Now, I'm not suggesting that you turn into a royal pain whose only purpose in life is to generate business contacts. You know the type. She seems to have business cards growing out of her palm. She gets in your space, touches your shoulder a lot, and insists on calling you Jim when you've already told her 3 times that you prefer James. You hate her. I do too. No, what I'm talking about is simply taking an interest in other people in a genuine way, and then making sure that they know about the services you offer. It works something like this. You sit down beside a stranger at a school soccer game. You introduce yourself and ask the guy which player is his daughter. He proudly points her out to you. You make a complimentary comment about her ability as you watch the progress of the game. Now compliment him on being able to support his daughter by coming to the game to watch her play. Ask him where he works. Express interest and ask him what he likes best about his job. Comment on his daughter's play as you continue to watch the game. Ask him how he got started in his job. Then mention to him that in your work, you meet all kinds of people, and suggest to him that you might be able to send some new business referrals his way. Ask him how you can best help him with referrals. Ask for permission to call him and follow up with referrals. You have watched the game, which you are going to do anyway. In the process, you have possibly made a great new contact, and perhaps a new friend, that may lead to new locations for your machines. At the very least, you have made a new contact that you can refer to one of your existing contacts. The networking experience has cost you nothing. It may lead to new vending locations. It may also be a profitable referral for an existing contact, solidifying your relationship. At the very least, it is a means of practicing and honing your communication skills. 5. Be a joiner. In addition to the personal contacts you make each and every day, there are a number of other networking opportunities available to you. These include joining a local service organization such as Kiwanis, Optimists, or some other group whose members work to benefit your community. Not only will you have the opportunity to network with community leaders, The visibility you gain by your membership will make it easier for people to contact you. Chambers of commerce, radio stations, and other businesses often hold networking meetings or host networking groups. These are great opportunities to meet people who own or manage businesses that will make great locations for your vending machines. Another excellent networking opportunity is your community's local business training center. The Chamber of Commerce, a community college, or some other organization may sponsor this center. The center will have adult classes to teach soft business skills such as public speaking. You may also find it worthwhile to consider joining an online networking group. If your community is large enough and you select the right online networking group, you may find valuable business contacts within your geographical area via the internet. Here are some other places you can find contacts. The PTA at your child's school, specialized chambers of commerce or business organizations such as those for women or people with certain religious denominations or ethnic groups. Your church, a charity that interests you. A social group that interests you. 6. Don't spin your wheels. If you decide to attend a local networking event or join a networking group, make sure it is the right one for you and your vending business. Joining an online networking group with 2 million members around the world will do you very little good in finding places for your vending machines in and around your local community. Use your energy efficiently and stick to organizations that have some relation to your business or organizations that you would join in any event. 7. Let your imagination go. Have you ever been to so many Chamber of Commerce meetings you feel like your tie is glued to your neck? Or have you been avoiding them altogether? Not to worry. There are as many ways to network as there are people. For example, if you're sick of the Chamber of Commerce, think about the target businesses for your machines. Are you looking to place them in factory and warehouse break rooms? What organizations do the managers of these businesses join? Where do they play golf? Which community groups do they join? The answers to these questions can give you some new ideas for finding contacts. Have a brainstorming session to come up with ideas. Don't worry about whether the ideas are bad or good. Just start writing things down. If you have trouble getting started, feel free to borrow some of my ideas. Write an article about your vending business for a small newspaper. Start a newsletter of your own. Volunteer to work with kids in 4-H or junior achievement. Start a blog or newsletter about anything and ask people to sign up for a free subscription. This gives you contact names. Join an internet discussion group on something related or on something that interests you. Go to www.about.com and see if there's an opening for an expert in an interesting and related field. Do some volunteer work in your company's name, such as joining a work crew for Habitat for Humanity. Turn the tables on the Chamber of Commerce. Ask whether they'd be interested in having you as a speaker. Get a pair of magnet signs for your car. Write a short story that involves vending somehow and see if you can get it printed in a local publication. Donate snacks in your company's name to a function at your place of worship. 8. Focus on quality contacts versus quantity. Have you ever attended a business seminar or networking event and noticed someone rushing around from person to person, talking briefly and thrusting business cards in people's hands? All the while, our super networker is talking with one person. His eyes are darting around the crowd as he selects his next victim. As soon as he can make the all-important business card exchange, he is off and running to accost his next contact. How many of his networking contacts do you suppose remembers him by the time they get to work the next day? How many of his cards do you suppose make it past the nearest waste paper can? Do you suppose our super networker will be able to get even one or two of these people to take his call the next day? Networking is a little like dating. For those of you who have been married for a while, try to remember what dating was like. You met someone new. You made a quick assessment and decided you wanted to know that person better. You were curious and excited about this new person. You wanted to spend enough time with him or her that you could get to know him or her better. Take the time to make a quality contact. Once you've been introduced, be pleasant and maintain eye contact. For the few minutes that you will be talking, make the other person feel that he or she is one of the most important people in the world to you. Ask the soft questions that we've described before. Be sincere. Be interested. Do not be pushy. Do not overstay your welcome. It is far better to make 1 or 2 quality contacts at a networking event or during the course of the day than to pass out dozens of business cards to people who will never remember you. 9. Be able to clearly state what you do. It is amazing the number of people, when asked about themselves, stumble over what they do. This happens for a number of reasons. One is information overload. With all of the tasks and responsibilities the person faces each day, he or she may have difficulty in boiling them down into a 5 or 10-second response. Another is self-consciousness. Perhaps the person has been promoted to company president. The person may be new to that position and still feel a little uncomfortable with the title and not want to feel like they are bragging with the title. A third reason may be that the person has not yet developed a trust relationship and may be unsure how much of what she does she wants to reveal. Or a person may not like his job, or even be somewhat embarrassed about what he does. Finally, the person may not be asked that question often and have not thought through a solid response. When you begin networking, you can expect questions about who you are and what you do. You will make a much stronger and more positive impression if you have a quick and concise response. This response needs to be informative, not brusque. Develop a 10-second introduction of yourself. For example, it might go something like this. Hi, my name is Ronnie Talent. I own RSV Vending, and we also work with a local foundation that helps cancer patients. This type of introduction speaks reams about you. You said that you own your company and told the listener what kind of company it is. You've shown that you are positive, enthusiastic, and proud of what you do. Better yet, you've shown that you are direct and professional. Finally, your introduction invites more questions, perhaps giving you clues to the other person's interests. Develop this introduction, memorize it, and rehearse it. You do not want for it to seem canned or phony, but you do want to be able to say it easily and fluently. 10. Be prepared. You should never go anywhere without a few business cards and some literature about your company. You never know when you'll need it to make a brief presentation about your company. You may or may not use it during this first contact, but if circumstances unfold so that it is appropriate, you should be ready. In any event, you should expect to be using it during a subsequent contact. This presentation, which should be a little longer than your introduction, may go something like this. CHF is a foundation that provides hair for cancer patients. We help out with a vending outreach program. What we do is place our vending machines in break rooms, waiting rooms, and restaurants, and much of their funding comes from the proceeds of these machines. It's designed to help cancer and alopecia patients with their hair loss while they go through treatment. Incidentally, do you folks have a break room? This mini presentation, less than 30 seconds long, accomplishes several things. First, you're obviously a big supporter of CHF, and this is enough off the beaten track to catch the other person's attention. It creates interest in what your company is doing. It also opens the door for the contact's firm to join your worthy cause and sets the groundwork for one of the most important parts of networking, follow-up. 11. Follow-up. When you make a business contact, attach a follow-up action to it. Exchange business cards or contact information. Offer to make a follow-up phone call or email, then do it. This is where most people drop the ball and miss the opportunities that can come from networking and business contacts. Let's go back to the dating example for just a moment. When you met someone you wanted to ask out on a date, you didn't wait for a month to make the phone call. You called the very next day. You were interested. You wanted her to know that you were interested. The same principle applies here. Call, send a postcard, or an email the very next day. Mention something you learned during your conversation. Express your desire to maintain contact. Offer your assistance in helping the contact gain referrals once again. Move the contact relationship forward toward the next step, referrals. 12. Give great service. Your best marketing tool will always be your good work. All the networking in the world will do you no good if your machines are always out of order.